There's a secret road to success that very few ever take. It doesn't require brilliance, talent, or luck. It requires something much harder: the daily decision to keep going when no one is watching. That's why consistency is the master key. Miss it, and nothing works. Master it, and everything begins to unfold. In this message, I will show you why consistency is the one discipline that guarantees success, how to form it, how to protect it, and how to use it to outlast failure. You will learn how to stay on course when enthusiasm fades, when results seem distant, and when quitting looks easier. If you will stay with me, you will discover how simple habits, repeated daily, can create a life of order, progress, and eventual success. We live in a world that celebrates instant results, overnight riches, fast success, immediate rewards. Yet life never works that way. Farmers don't plant today and harvest tomorrow. Builders don't pour a foundation and expect a skyscraper by nightfall. Still, in our own lives, we make this mistake. We quit too soon. We doubt too quickly. We lose sight of the law that rewards consistency. If you've ever grown frustrated at starting over, if you've ever wondered why others seem to achieve while you remain stuck, this lesson is for you. Because once you understand and apply this principle, you'll never see effort the same way again. Here's what we'll cover. First, we'll uncover why consistency, not intensity, decides success. Then I'll show you the hidden law that multiplies your results if you simply stay the course. We'll talk about the traps that make most people quit and how you can avoid them. I'll share stories that prove the truth of this principle, and finally, I'll give you a simple plan you can use starting today to keep yourself moving forward no matter how you feel, no matter how long it takes. By the end, you'll see that success is not a mystery, it is a certainty for the one who is consistent. Now here's something most people completely miss when they think about success. They imagine it's reserved for the talented, the gifted, or the lucky. But I want to tell you a truth that cuts through all of that noise. Success doesn't belong to the most brilliant, it belongs to the most consistent. Think of it this way. A river doesn't carve a canyon by being strong, it carves it by being steady. Day after day, drop after drop, it wears away solid rock until it creates one of nature's greatest wonders. That's power. That's the kind of power available to you and me, not through bursts of effort, not through sudden flashes of genius, but through the steady rhythm of showing up. Let me set up a picture for you. There are two students. One spends 30 minutes each day quietly, faithfully, reading, taking notes, thinking about what he's learned. The other ignores study most of the month and then crams 10 hours the night before the exam. Which one do you think retains more knowledge, builds more skill, and grows more confident? The answer is obvious. The one who is steady. Why? Because the mind, like the body, responds to regular exercise. What you repeat, you strengthen. What you neglect, you weaken. Now, why does this matter to you? Because many people are trapped by the idea that they need to be exceptional from the start. They think, I'm not talented enough, or I don't have the gift. But here's the good news. You don't need to be the most talented, you only need to be the most consistent. The world doesn't reward unused talent. It rewards steady output. It rewards the person who stays in the race long enough to cross the finish line. Let me give you an image. Picture a person with dazzling talent who shows up only once in a while. Their work is like lightning brilliant for a moment, then gone. Now picture someone with modest skill who shows up every day, practicing, improving, learning. Which one, over time, becomes the master? Which one builds a body of work, a reputation, and results? Always the one who shows up, always the one who stays consistent. This is why you must force yourself to stay steady when enthusiasm fades. Talent may open a door, but only consistency keeps it open. And it's here that so many lose their way. They burn bright for a week, a month, maybe even a year. But then, when results don't come fast enough, they stop. And all that potential goes cold. Let's make this practical. Ask yourself, what small, repeatable action could I do every day that, if done for a year, would make a radical difference in my life? It doesn't need to be grand. It might be writing one page, making one call, practicing one skill, saving $1. These small actions, multiplied by time, build extraordinary results. That's the law. Ignore it, and you'll drift. Honor it, and you'll prosper. And here's the part that might sting a little. If you look back over your life and you don't see the progress you want, it's not because you lacked ability. It's because you lacked consistency. That's the hard truth. But it's also the liberating truth. Because it means that from this moment forward, you can change everything not by waiting for a stroke of luck or a flash of brilliance, but by choosing to show up today, tomorrow, and the next day. Remember this: brilliance fades. Luck is fickle. But steady effort builds a foundation no one can take from you. The river will always carve the canyon. The student who studies daily will always outpace the one who crams. And the person who stays consistent will always outrun the one who only shows up when it's convenient. That's powerful enough on its own. But combine it with what I'm about to share next, and you'll see why consistency is not only more valuable than talent, it becomes the compound force that multiplies every effort you make. And that's where we'll go next. Now, what I'm about to share might sound simple at first, but if you let it sink in, you'll begin to understand why some people move steadily upward while others spend their lives running in place. The truth is this: small daily actions, repeated with faith and consistency, compound into results far greater than we can imagine. It doesn't look dramatic in the beginning. In fact, it can feel almost invisible, as though nothing is happening at all. But time, quietly and faithfully, multiplies every seed we plant, until one day the harvest appears so suddenly and so abundantly that it seems like a miracle. But it is no miracle. It is simply the law of cause and effect, working in silence, rewarding those who stayed steady long enough to see it bear fruit. Think of money for a moment. Imagine taking a single penny and doubling it each day for a month. On the first day you have 1 cent, on the second day 2, on the third 4. By the 10th day you've only reached a little over $5. Nothing impressive. Most would stop there, convinced that such tiny gains could never amount to much. But by the 30th day, that humble penny has multiplied into over $5 million. Not because of sudden luck, not because of brilliance, but because of the quiet power of compounding. And life works exactly the same way. Most people abandon their efforts too soon, when the visible results are still small, not realizing that the greatest growth happens beneath the surface, building momentum until it bursts forth in abundance. Let me ask you something. Have you ever started something, a habit, a goal, a discipline, and after a week or two you looked around and thought, this isn't working? Maybe you went to the gym for 10 days and didn't see much change. Maybe you saved a few dollars and felt it was too little to matter. Maybe you wrote a few pages of a book and thought, what's the use? That's where most people quit. They stop before compounding has had the chance to work. They dig up the seed they planted, looking for proof, not realizing that growth has already begun, quietly and invisibly, just below the surface. And then they wonder why they remain stuck. But imagine instead if you had kept going. Imagine you had stuck to it not for 10 days, not for 10 weeks, but for a year, for 5 years, for 10. Those small, almost invisible actions would have multiplied into something so large that others would look at you and call you lucky, never realizing that what they see as luck is nothing more than the quiet reward of consistency. This is why the compound effect of daily actions is so powerful. It takes the smallest seed of effort and, given time, transforms it into a towering result. Here's the real danger. Most people expect progress to be linear. They think that if they put in a little effort, they'll see immediate matching results, and when they don't, they stop. But compounding doesn't work that way. Progress is deceptive in the early stages. It is slow, quiet, often invisible, but then, when the tipping point comes, growth becomes explosive. This is why the vast majority of people never experience it. They quit in the early stage, when growth is hidden, and never stay long enough to experience the breakthrough. I want you to think again of that penny doubling. If you stop after 10 days, you walk away with barely $5. If you stop after 20, you've got just over 5,000. But if you hold on until the 30th day, you step into millions. That's the law of compounding, And it applies to your habits, your skills, your work, your finances, your health, your relationships, every part of life. The small things you do daily may not seem like much, but given time, they multiply into extraordinary returns. And the small things you neglect daily, those too compound into decline, decay, and regret. The law never fails. So what does this mean for you? It means that every small, good action matters, far more than you might realize in the moment. Every page you read, every step you take, every dollar you save, every kind word you speak, every small act of discipline you perform, they all go into the account of your life. And over time they will multiply into something beyond your current imagination, but you must stay consistent long enough for compounding to work in your favor. That is the price, and that is the promise. Remember this: the extraordinary is always hidden inside the ordinary. Great lives are built not by sudden leaps, but by steady steps. Massive success is always the result of small, repeated actions. And the difference between the one who succeeds and the one who fails is not talent, it is not opportunity, it is not even intelligence, it is consistency. Consistency unlocks the compound effect, and the compound effect, once set in motion, becomes unstoppable. So the next time you're tempted to quit because you don't see immediate results, remember the penny. Remember the bamboo tree that grows unseen for years before it suddenly shoots upward. Remember the farmer who plants, waters, and waits, knowing the harvest will come in its season. And then keep going. Keep watering, keep planting, keep showing up. Because when consistency and compounding join hands, success is no longer a possibility, it becomes an inevitability. And that brings us to a hard truth that explains why so few ever reach their full potential. It's not that they lack the ability to succeed. It's that they fail to stay consistent long enough to allow the law of compounding to work for them. Instead, they demand immediate results, and when they don't see them, they abandon the very actions that would have produced success. That's what we'll examine next: why most people quit, and how you can avoid that trap. Now, let me tell you about one of the greatest reasons people fail to stay consistent. It isn't because they lack talent. It isn't because they lack opportunity. And it isn't even because they're lazy, though that's the easy excuse many give themselves. No, the real reason most people quit is because they expect immediate results. They start with enthusiasm, they begin with hope, they put in a few days, a few weeks of effort, and then they stop, discouraged, because the world hasn't yet rushed to reward them. And that, my friend, is the tragedy of untold lives. Think about it. How many people have you seen join a gym in January, only to abandon it by February because they don't see a new body in the mirror? How many start saving money, but after a few weeks, when their account hasn't grown much, they shrug and spend it? How many begin reading a book, practicing a skill, learning an instrument, only to give it up because after a month they aren't yet a master? This is the great trap, expecting the fruit before the tree has even taken root. Life doesn't work on our timetable of impatience. There's always a gap between the seed and the harvest, between the effort and the reward. And that gap is what destroys most people. They misunderstand time. They think results come instantly, when in truth they are always delayed. Nature itself shows us this law. A farmer doesn't plant today and harvest tomorrow. He plants, waters, weeds, and waits. And while nothing seems to be happening on the surface, deep beneath the soil, life is stirring, roots are forming, the unseen foundation is being laid. But the impatient man looks at the empty field and says, "This isn't working." He walks away, and by walking away, he abandons the harvest that was sure to come if only he had waited. This is why enthusiasm alone will never carry you to success. Enthusiasm fades. It burns brightly at the beginning, but it always cools. And when it cools, discipline must take over. Discipline says, keep going, even when you see nothing. Discipline says, trust the law of cause and effect, even when the effect is not yet visible. Most people never make that transition. They quit too soon. They stop inches before gold, moments before the breakthrough, just as the reward was about to appear. Let me tell you a story. During the California gold rush, there was a miner who dug tirelessly for weeks, convinced that a great vein of gold was hidden beneath his claim. But after months of labor with nothing to show for it, he grew weary. He gave up, sold his equipment to another man, and walked away. That second man studied the land, continued digging in the same place, and just 3 feet later struck one of the richest gold veins ever found. The first miner wasn't unlucky, he was impatient. He gave up too soon. He fell into the trap of expecting immediate results. And you and I must learn from his mistake. The world doesn't pay on demand. It pays in time, and only after we've proven we are serious enough to stay with the work long enough to deserve the reward. If you let impatience rule you, you'll abandon your effort long before the law of harvest has a chance to deliver what you planted. That's the price most people pay. They start strong, but they stop early. They never see the reward because they never gave it time to appear. So I ask you, where in your life have you been digging, only to abandon your effort because the results didn't come quickly enough? Where have you let impatience rob you of the very reward that was waiting just beyond the point where you stopped? Remember the miner, remember the farmer. Remember that the gap between effort and reward is not a sign of failure, it is the necessary proving ground. If you endure it, success is certain. If you abandon it, failure is certain. And here is the great paradox. The ones who succeed are not the ones who work the hardest for a day or even a week. They are the ones who keep working when nothing seems to be happening. They are the ones who understand that delay is not denial. They are the ones who refuse to quit 3 feet from gold. That's why you must make up your mind now that you will not let impatience steal your destiny. Hold steady through the silence. Keep going through the dry spells. Because if you do, the reward will come, and it will always be worth the wait. And yet, even in those silent seasons when nothing seems to be happening, there is something happening. Growth is taking place beneath the surface, where you cannot yet see it. And that's what I want to show you next. The hidden growth that fools most people, but which holds the secret to every great success. What most people never understand, and what causes them to quit before success can arrive, is that growth doesn't always announce itself. In fact, the most important growth, the kind that builds true results, is invisible for a long time. You can be putting in the work every day, doing the right things, staying with your goal, and still it seems as though nothing is happening. That is the testing ground of every dream. That is where 95 out of 100 give up. And yet, it is in that very period of apparent silence that the most vital changes are taking place. Consider the Chinese bamboo tree. You plant the seed, you water it, you nurture it, and for the first year nothing happens. The second year, nothing. The third year, still nothing. Even into the 4th year you see no growth above the ground. To the impatient, to the casual observer, it looks like failure. But in the 5th year, something astonishing happens. That bamboo shoots up as much as 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Now, let me ask you, did that tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Of course not. It grew 90 feet in 5 years. All that time when nothing was visible, the roots were spreading wide and deep, preparing to support the massive growth that was coming. Without those unseen years of foundation, the tree could never stand tall. And so it is with your efforts. The unseen period, the time when you are showing up, working, persisting without recognition, or visible progress that is not wasted time, that is the necessary season of root building. If you abandon the effort during that time, you cut off the very foundation of your future success. But if you hold steady, if you trust the process, then when the moment of visible growth arrives, you will seem to others like an overnight success. But you will know better. You will know that it was years of hidden growth finally breaking through. This law is universal. Nature always works in phases. The seed must die before the plant is born. The roots must spread before the stalk can rise. The winter must pass before the spring arrives. And so it is with us. There will always be seasons of preparation that appear barren. But those seasons are not barren at all. They are rich with invisible development, discipline being formed, habits taking root, character being strengthened, endurance being built. These are the very things that success demands. And they are always forged in silence, away from applause, away from recognition, away from results that can be seen. This is why I say to you, never mistake delay for denial. Just because you cannot yet see the fruit does not mean the tree is not alive. Just because the harvest is not in view does not mean the field is barren. The work you are doing now, the effort you are giving now, is building a foundation beneath the surface, and in time, it will reveal itself in ways that will astonish you and those around you. But only if you refuse to quit. Let me remind you of another truth. The universe rewards patience. The impatient man abandons his post and forfeits his prize. The patient man holds steady and inherits the reward that was waiting all along. Every day that you continue in faith, every day that you remain consistent when nothing seems to happen, you are adding another ring to the trunk of your success, unseen, but vital. One day, it will burst forth. One day, it will be undeniable. And when it does, others will ask, "How did this happen so suddenly?" And you will know the truth that nothing is sudden. All success is years in the making, though it appears in a moment. So hold steady in your silent season. Trust the law of growth. Let your roots spread unseen. Because when your time comes, and it always comes to those who do not quit, you will rise quickly, powerfully, and unmistakably. That is the law of life. That is the law of success. And with that law in mind, let us look at the vital element that keeps this whole process alive: your attitude. Because it isn't just the work itself that sustains consistency, it is the spirit with which you work. And that is where we turn next. Now let's talk about the one element that colors everything you do, the one thing that either fuels your ability to stay consistent or quietly destroys it. That element is your attitude. You see, consistency isn't only about showing up in body, it's about showing up in spirit. A person can drag themselves to work, force themselves to go through the motions, and yet gain little or nothing from it because their attitude poisons every effort. Another person can do the very same tasks but with a different attitude, and those tasks become steps upward, each one building momentum, each one carrying them closer to success. The difference between those two people isn't the work, it's the attitude they bring to the work. Attitude is the paintbrush of the mind. It colors every situation, every circumstance, every person you meet. If you rise each day with a sour, defeated, skeptical outlook, then everything you touch will take on that color. You'll see obstacles instead of opportunities. You'll magnify delays and interpret them as failures. You'll look at the slow seasons of growth and convince yourself that nothing is happening, and you'll be tempted to quit. That is how most people sabotage themselves. They poison their own efforts with a poor attitude. They kill their consistency from within. But if you rise with an attitude of expectancy, with gratitude, with the calm assurance that cause and effect never sleep, that the world reflects what you put into it, then every day becomes a fresh opportunity. The same work, the same challenges, the same delays take on an entirely different meaning. Instead of seeing them as reasons to quit, you see them as necessary steps on the path. Instead of seeing the waiting period as wasted time, you see it as preparation. Instead of growing weary at the lack of recognition, you understand that you're building strength for the moment when recognition does come. And here's the truth: success is not built in extraordinary moments. It is built in ordinary days, and it is your attitude that transforms those ordinary days into something extraordinary. The right attitude turns routine into growth, turns obstacles into lessons, turns setbacks into stepping stones. Without the right attitude, consistency becomes drudgery. With the right attitude, consistency becomes progress. Let me give you an example. Think of the athlete who trains day after day, often with no audience, no applause, no spotlight. He runs when no one is watching. He lifts weights in silence. He practices his form, his technique, his endurance when the world pays no attention. To an outsider, it may look meaningless, even boring, but the athlete knows better. He knows that each quiet day of training, multiplied by weeks, months, and years, builds the strength and the skill that will one day shine under the lights of competition. When he finally stands on the field, when the crowd roars, when the medals are awarded, people call it talent, they call it genius, they call it natural ability. But he knows the truth. It wasn't talent, it wasn't genius, it wasn't luck. It was consistency, powered by the right attitude. and you must treat your life the same way. Every day, whether or not anyone notices, whether or not the results are visible, you show up with the right attitude. You understand that the world mirrors your outlook. If you expect failure, you invite failure. If you expect progress, you invite progress. If you expect indifference, you will receive indifference. But if you expect the best, if you approach each day with gratitude for the opportunity to work, to grow, to move forward, then life will reflect that attitude right back to you. I want you to remember something. Attitude is not passive. It isn't simply how you feel in the moment. It's a choice. You set your attitude each morning the same way you set the course of a ship. If you do not set it, it will drift. And drifting never takes you where you want to go. You must decide, deliberately, that today you will expect the best, that today you will carry yourself as though success is already on its way. That decision, repeated day after day, becomes a habit. And that habit, in turn, becomes a force that sustains your consistency long after motivation has faded. And here is the wonderful thing. A good attitude not only keeps you consistent, it multiplies your results. People respond to it. Opportunities are drawn to it. Success gravitates toward it. Why? Because everyone wants to deal with the man or woman who brings light into the room, who brings faith into the task, who treats every person as important, who shows patience and cheerfulness even when circumstances are less than ideal. That kind of person becomes magnetic, and the source of that magnetism is simply attitude. So as you move forward, don't think only about your actions. Think about the spirit in which you perform them. Ask yourself each morning, what attitude will I carry into my work today? Will I color my efforts with doubt, with bitterness, with complaint? Or will I color them with gratitude, with expectancy, with faith? The choice is always yours, and the consequences of that choice will always reflect back to you. Remember, consistency in action must be matched by consistency in attitude. Together, they create a force that nothing can withstand. Fail to align them, and you will struggle. Align them, and you will rise steadily, day by day, into the life you want. Now, if you understand this, you're ready for the next step. Because attitude alone, no matter how good, must be supported by structure. You cannot rely on feeling alone to keep you steady. You must build systems and habits that anchor your consistency, that remove the need for constant willpower, that make persistence almost automatic. And that is what we will turn to next. What I want to show you now may be the missing piece for many of you. Because you may understand by now that consistency is more powerful than talent, you may know that compounding is the quiet force of growth, and you may even believe that your attitude determines your ability to persist. But here is the truth that separates those who succeed steadily from those who stumble again and again. You cannot rely on willpower alone. You cannot expect to wake up every day with fresh motivation, endless energy, and a perfect mood. No one does. The secret is not to depend on those things at all, but to build a structure, a system of habits and routines that holds you up when your feelings try to pull you down. That is the true power of discipline. Most people try to live their lives moment by moment, decision by decision. They wake up and wonder, will I feel like working today? Will I feel like training? Will I feel like saving, like studying, like persisting? And if the answer is no, they drift, they delay, they make excuses. That's why their lives remain a series of false starts and half-built projects. The disciplined person, on the other hand, has already decided. He has already built the structure that removes the need for daily debate. He writes his goals down every morning so they remain fixed before his mind. He sets a schedule so he doesn't need to ask whether he should or shouldn't work. The time for work has already been chosen. He builds rituals, small acts repeated daily, that anchor his progress even when enthusiasm is low. And because of this, he advances day after day while others hesitate. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a builder standing before a great cathedral. The goal is enormous, far beyond what one man could complete in a day, a month, or even a year. If the builder tried to take it on without a plan, relying only on bursts of energy and flashes of inspiration, he would give up before the first tower was finished. But with a blueprint in hand, with a system of laying one brick at a time, with scaffolding and structure to hold each part in place as it rises, the cathedral is built, not in a day, not in a week, but inevitably. And the same is true for your life. Your success will not come from scattered bursts of effort. It will come from the structure you build, the blueprint you follow, the daily habits that lift you steadily upward. Now, why is this so important? Because when enthusiasm fades, as it always does, your system remains. When circumstances change, your structure remains. When feelings whisper, "Quit today, just this once," your habits carry you forward almost automatically. The man who relies only on motivation is like a ship without a rudder. He may sail swiftly for a while, but the winds will change, and without guidance, he will drift. The man who has built a system is like the ship with a chart and a compass. No matter the winds, he holds steady on his course, and the shore he set out for will be reached. So I ask you, have you built a structure for your discipline, or are you still depending on willpower alone? Do you write your goal daily so that it is clear before you? Do you block out time so that work and study happen without question? Do you have small rituals that make progress, automatic rising early, reviewing your purpose, taking one meaningful action before the day's distractions begin? Or are you leaving your future to chance, waiting for the right feeling, hoping for inspiration, but never putting scaffolding under your dream? If you want to build consistency, you must build the systems that make it easier to continue than to stop. A man who keeps his tools ready, his workspace clean, his schedule fixed, will find it easier to begin each day. A man who leaves everything scattered, undefined, uncertain, will find every step heavier than it needs to be. Discipline, once set into a structure, removes friction. It makes the hard things smoother, the difficult things natural. That is why the successful seem to glide forward with less strain than others. It isn't that their work is easier, it's that their systems make it so. And here's the most remarkable thing. The very act of building structure into your life creates freedom. It may sound like the opposite. It may sound as though routine and discipline chain you down, but the truth is that structure liberates you. The man without discipline is a slave to his moods, his distractions, his impulses. He is tossed about by circumstance. The man with structure has already chosen, already prepared, already made his decisions. He is free to create, free to progress, free to rise above the chaos because his foundation is steady. So begin now. Write your goal each morning as the compass of your day. Create a simple schedule that anchors your work. Choose one or two small rituals, perhaps reading for 15 minutes, perhaps journaling your progress, perhaps beginning the day with your most important task, and make them non-negotiable. These are your scaffolding, your bricks, your blueprint. They will hold you steady when emotion falters, when patience thins, when resistance whispers. And if you keep to them, day after day, they will build for you a cathedral of success, visible to all, undeniable, unshakable. But here is the warning. Once you have built this structure, you must protect it, because storms will come, distractions will come, temptations will come. The world will try to pull you away from your steady course, and if you do not guard your discipline, it will crumble. That's why the next part of our journey is so important: how to protect your consistency from disruption, how to keep the storms of life from tearing down what you have so carefully built. Once you have built the scaffolding of discipline, once you have established the habits and the structure that give order to your days, there comes the next great challenge: protecting what you have built. Because life will not leave you alone. The storms will come, distractions will creep in. The world, often without meaning to, will try to pull you away from the very routines and disciplines that carry you forward. And if you are not careful, you can lose in a moment what it took you years to build. Consistency is a fragile treasure. It must be guarded with vigilance. Think of a lighthouse on a rocky coast. Its light shines steadily, night after night, guiding ships to safety. But why does it never fail? Because it was built for storms. Its foundation was sunk deep into the rock. Its walls were reinforced against wind and wave. The builders knew that storms would come, so they prepared for them in advance. And that is how you must think about your consistency. Do not imagine that it will always be smooth sailing. Do not imagine that you will never be tempted, never be interrupted, never be challenged. Instead, expect the storms. Build your habits in such a way that they can withstand disruption. Remove as many temptations and obstacles as you can before they appear, and when storms do arrive, hold steady. Many people lose their consistency not because of great disasters, but because of small, repeated disruptions. They allow their environment to work against them. They leave temptations within reach. They fill their days with distractions. And when the time comes to act, to practice, to move forward, they find the path blocked not by huge obstacles, but by hundreds of small, preventable ones. That is why your environment is so critical. You cannot expect to rise steadily if everything around you is designed to pull you down. If you want to read more, remove the clutter and make your books visible. If you want to save money, set up systems that keep you from spending impulsively. If you want to stay healthy, keep good food at hand and remove the bad. Success is not only about what you do, it is also about what you prevent from stopping you. But there is more. Beyond environment, you must also build accountability into your life. Left to ourselves, most of us will falter. We will excuse our failures. We will let ourselves off the hook. But when we involve others, when we declare our goals, when we align with people who expect us to follow through, we raise the stakes. We put our reputation on the line. We make quitting harder, and that extra layer of pressure can often be the difference between continuing and giving up. Think of a craftsman working in silence, and then imagine him working with an apprentice at his side. His standard rises, his discipline sharpens, because he knows someone is watching. Accountability strengthens consistency. And let me remind you of something else. Consistency is not about never falling. You will stumble. You will be interrupted. You will face days when everything seems to conspire against you. Protecting your consistency does not mean you never break a streak. It means you never allow a break to become a collapse. It means that when you are knocked off course, you return quickly. You begin again the very next day. You do not punish yourself. You do not wallow in failure. You simply return, calmly and steadily, to the structure you have built. This one habit of returning quickly after every disruption will protect your consistency more than any other. So think of yourself as the keeper of a flame. Each day your consistency adds fuel, keeps the fire alive. But the winds will blow, the rains will come, and there will be days when the flame burns low. Your task is not to despair when that happens. Your task is to shield the flame, to keep it alive, and to build it again the next morning. That is what separates the man who finishes the race from the man who drops out halfway. It is not perfection. It is persistence. It is not an unbroken record of discipline, but the refusal to let setbacks become surrender. Protect your consistency with your environment. Guard it with your choices. Strengthen it with accountability. And most of all, renew it daily with the decision to begin again, no matter what happened yesterday. If you do that, nothing can stop you. Your lighthouse will stand through every storm. Your flame will burn through every night. And your habits, once protected, will carry you forward into the life you have chosen. And now, having laid this foundation, understanding why consistency matters more than talent, learning to endure the hidden seasons of growth, shaping your attitude, building your structure, and guarding it, we come at last to the great reward. Because all of this effort, all of this discipline, all of this steady persistence is leading somewhere. It is leading to the harvest. It is leading to the inevitable reward of consistency. And that is where we turn next. Everything in life pays its price, and everything in life pays its reward. And the reward of consistency is one of the greatest you will ever know. Because consistency is the key that unlocks compounding, and compounding is the law that multiplies the smallest actions into the greatest achievements. Think of the farmer who tends his fields faithfully each day. He does not see the stalks rise overnight. He does not rush out each morning expecting a full harvest by noon. He knows the law. He plants, waters, weeds, and waits. And in due season, the harvest comes. It always comes. Not to the man who hopes, not to the man who complains, not to the man who demands without planting, but to the man who remains faithful in his work. That is the law of consistency, and its reward is certain. Here's the truth. Success may appear sudden to the world, but it is never sudden to the one who has worked for it. Others will look at you and say, "How fortunate he is, how lucky she has become." They will see the visible fruit, but they will never see the invisible years of discipline that produced it. They will call it talent, or chance, or a stroke of good fortune. But you will know. You will know that what looks like luck is simply the inevitable harvest of your steady sowing. The tortoise, plodding one slow step after another, always defeats the hare who runs in fits and starts. Not because the tortoise is faster, not because he is more gifted, but because he refuses to stop, and in the end, the finish line belongs to him. Think also of Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times in his quest to perfect the light bulb. Others saw failure, he saw progress. Each attempt brought him one step closer, and because he was consistent, he eventually succeeded where others gave up. Today, the world remembers him as a genius, but what he really was consistent. And that is why his name lives on. The reward of consistency is not only the outer success that others can see, it is also the inner success that no one can take from you. It is the self-respect that comes from keeping your own promises. It is the quiet confidence that grows when you know you can trust yourself. It is the strength of character that is built when you do what you said you would do, day after day, whether or not anyone else notices. That inner reward is greater than the outer reward because it cannot be stolen. Wealth can be lost, recognition can fade, applause can disappear, but the self you have built through consistency remains. And here is something else. The consistent life is a peaceful life. There is no frantic chasing, no wild searching for shortcuts, no constant starting and stopping. There is only the steady rhythm of progress, the calm assurance that the law is at work, the knowledge that as long as you continue, the harvest is guaranteed. Most people live in cycles of excitement and disappointment, rushing forward and then collapsing backward. But the consistent man, the consistent woman, rises steadily. And with that steady rise comes peace, comes confidence, comes freedom. So what will your reward be? It will be the compounding of every small act you have done faithfully. It will be the sudden appearance of results that others call miraculous but that you know are inevitable. It will be the transformation of your character into one who is dependable, disciplined, and strong. And it will be the peace of mind that comes only to those who have learned the great secret, that consistency wins. So as we close this journey together, I want you to remember what we have seen. Talent may sparkle for a moment, but consistency endures. Compounding works in silence, but its results are certain. Most people quit too soon because they cannot endure the waiting. But if you endure, you will see the hidden growth become visible. Attitude fuels the spirit of persistence, and structure supports the body of it. Protect both, and you will outlast every storm. And in the end, your reward will be sure, for the harvest never fails the man or woman who refuses to quit. This is the promise life makes to you. Stay consistent, and success will follow. It cannot be otherwise. It has never been otherwise. The law is as certain as the rising of the Sunday. And now, the choice is yours. And so we arrive at the end of this journey together, and I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on what you've heard. All along the way, we have uncovered the quiet power of consistency. We have seen that talent, though dazzling, will never carry you as far as steady effort. We have seen that compounding multiplies your smallest actions until they become unstoppable forces of change. We have seen that most people quit not because they cannot succeed, but because they will not wait long enough to allow the law of growth to reveal itself. We have seen that attitude fuels persistence, that structure holds you steady, and that protecting your discipline is as important as building it. And finally, we have seen the great reward, the harvest that is guaranteed to those who refuse to abandon their course. So now it is your turn. What will you do with this knowledge? Because knowledge alone has never changed a life. It is applied knowledge put to use each day that transforms a man, that lifts a woman, that reshapes the course of a destiny. And the application is simple. Begin with one goal, one worthy ideal, one vision that is clear in your mind. Write it down. Carry it with you. Think about it often. And then, force yourself to stay consistent in its pursuit. Not for a day, not for a week, not until the novelty wears off, but every day, for as long as it takes. I challenge you to give yourself a test. For the next 30 days, choose one goal, and act daily toward it without excuse. Do not break the chain. Refuse to let one missed day become two. If you stumble, rise at once. If you fail, begin again immediately. Guard this discipline as though your future depends on it, because it does. At the end of 30 days, you will not only be closer to your goal, you will have built within yourself the habit of consistency. And once you hold that habit, nothing in this world can keep success from you. And let me remind you, this isn't about perfection. You will falter. You will have days when everything seems to fight against you. But what matters is not that you never fall, it is that you always rise. That you begin again, and again, and again, until consistency itself becomes part of your very nature. When that happens, you will look back and see that the life you wanted was not given to you by chance, but built by your own hands, brick by brick, day by day, through the steady force of persistence. Now, here is the truth I want you to carry with you long after these words are finished. Consistency wins. Not sometimes, not occasionally, not for a select few, but always, for anyone who refuses to quit. Success is not sudden. It is never an accident. It is the inevitable reward of consistency. And if you will commit yourself to this law, you will astonish yourself. But this is only the beginning. Because behind the power of consistency lies something even deeper, the principle that governs it, the truth that explains why consistency produces results, why your life will always mirror your dominant thoughts, why you cannot escape the harvest of what you plant in the mind. That principle is what I call the strangest secret. It is the foundation of everything we have spoken about today, and it will show you with absolute clarity why you become what you think about. If you are ready to take the next step, if you are ready to understand not only the practice of consistency, but the law that makes it effective, then I invite you to listen to that lesson. It is the key that unlocks the entire mystery of success. So here is where I leave you with a challenge, with an affirmation, and with a direction. The challenge: for 30 days, stay consistent toward one goal. The affirmation: success will follow you if you do. The direction: learn the deeper law in the strangest secret. That is your next step, and it will change everything. And as you go forward, remember this: you are the master of your fate because you are the master of your thoughts. Guard them, guide them, act on them, and stay consistent. And in time, you will rise into the life you have always desired, not suddenly, not by accident, but by the steady, unfailing law of cause and effect. That is the promise, that is the truth, and that truth will never fail you.